other pressing issues that they would like to bring up. If you do, you probably should pass me a note while George and Spencer are giving their presentations. And do we have the other candidates for John? See, yes, and Ramon, yeah. Oh, you're, okay. You're the other candidate from the U.S., right? Okay, great. So I think what we'll do, we'll start with the two incumbents and then have John and Carolyn is your name, right? Carolyn, give your presentation. Try to keep your presentations to 3 minutes. I don't have a gong and I don't have a hook, but in order to give everyone enough time to present. I'm trying to get the three presidential candidates in a block. I don't know if that's going to work, but it would be nice to hear from them one after another. The other people coming from the other regions, we're just going to have to play it by ear, given that they have, I think, three other conflicting, concurrent meetings tonight. So as they appear, we'll let them have an opportunity to speak. Again, I want to get started right away because of the loss of time, but if you have anything else that you want to have discussed that's not relating to the candidates or Hawaii as a Congress venue, please just pass me a note and we'll try to find some time for it. I could stay here till 9, but I have another meeting at 9, but Mary Beth West from the IUCN US office will carry it further if we have to stay beyond 9 o'clock. So, Spencer.
I just want to indicate that I think the Caribbean would like to have a small period to say something also.
Okay, we can, after the first, I want to also give you guys an opportunity to talk and go to the other meetings. So as soon as the four of you have spoken, Scott, I believe, is not here, right? He hasn't arrived yet. Scott, here he is? Not yet. Then we can have that discussion and the Hawaiian one after another. Okay? So who's going first? George, Spencer? Is this okay? Everybody happy with this?
Go for it.
Go for it. Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Russ. And thank you very much, our North American and Caribbean members. Actually, some of the Caribbean are here. I think a number of you know me, and I've had the great honor of being your council member over the last 4 years. I've also have to say I very much enjoyed working with my fellow incumbents, Spencer Thompson and Russ Mittermeier. We're sorry we're losing Russ, but you know, it is a democracy. He's done his job and we move on. I also know we have some very good candidates coming up behind him. I'm Canadian. I've represented you, the Canadian membership, and the global membership as well for 4 years. I have quite a varied background, having worked with NGOs, with governments, intergovernmental organizations, and all of my career, which is getting quite long-toothed these days, has been in environment, nature conservation, and sustainable development. I've worked internationally as a member of the GDF Council in its early days. I take some pride in the fact that I worked very hard to get NGOs to have a voice at the GDF, which was not an easy matter, but that's been now sustained. I helped negotiate the Convention to Combat Desertification, and I've worked in Indonesia and other countries over a number of years on development cooperation for the environment. I have about 25 years experience with IUCN, so there are others in this room a little bit longer. I think I'm looking at one right there, Nick. But it is substantial, and I've worked with IUCN in essentially every capacity. Commission member, chair of the National Committee. I was Assistant Director General for 4 years in headquarters, and now 4 years as council member. And I think what that gives me is a very strong knowledge of what I call the mechanics of IUCN, how this place works, of the culture of IUCN, and how all of that can be brought together really in the interest of conservation and building relationships across our NGO and government members around the world. I have a passion for IUCN. I think, in fact, it's very hard to get it out of your blood. Maybe that's why I've had all these different roles in IUCN. I've worked as a chair of the Governance Council of IUCN for the past 4 years, and in front of you, you see a number of the reforms that we're putting forward. The question of how to bring local governments into the work of IUCN more effectively. The question of how council can work more effectively as a proper body. The question of how we can be more transparent in the operations of this organization. And for me, most importantly, what I'm most proud of is the One Program Charter. this approach to how we work together across the members, the union, the secretariat, and the commissions to really leverage all of those capacities to delivering our program. What will I do if I go forward, if I'm lucky enough to be elected by you and the rest of the membership? I will work to better enable conservation science and management knowledge, i.e. the work of the commissions, into our core work of the union. I will champion what I believe is essential for us going forward, an engagement influencing strategy, so that we're not only working among ourselves as a conservation community, but we're getting to the roots of those who make the decisions, economic, financial, social decisions, in the finance community and business. And we must carry that forward if we're going to be successful. And I will work systematically to involve young people in this union. We have some very good young professional youth, but we're not doing a good job of giving them roles and to bring them along to replace those of us who are getting a little bit gray. We must really have a strong youth strategy. And finally, I will carry forward my responsibility as a council member to ensure sound financial management, but I think more importantly, we have a very rapidly changing financing world for the NGO community and for IUCN. We have to come up with new strategies to finance. We need to come up with a new business model that will really carry us forward into the future. So thank you very much, Russ. I've appreciated the opportunity, and I will stay if anyone has questions for all of us. Thank you.
Thanks very much, George, and thanks for keeping to time. I'm going to have all four of you present, and then if anyone has questions, we'll open the floor for questions. Spencer, up next.
Thank you very much, Russ. And good evening to everyone. I'm happy to be here this evening, and let me say thank you to everyone for the votes at the last WCC in Barcelona, so that I can be on the IUCN Council. I hope that I have represented the region well on the Council over the last 4 years from your estimation. During the last 4 years, I attended all the meetings of the Council, and I was fortunate to be elected to the co-chair of the Finance and Audit Committee. I'm also a member of the Governance Committee, and also a member of the task force for the IPDS. And I've been a member of the group for 2 years. During that period, I think I worked very closely with Ross and Green, and they were very instrumental in helping me and guiding me through the first 4 years of my tenure in the organization. I must say that over the last 4 years also, I had the privilege to be invited, I think twice to Canada, to meet with some of the members in Canada, and once to the US, and of course several times and several places in the Caribbean among our Caribbean members. It was a very fruitful period in terms of my estimation. With respect to IUCN, George mentioned it, I think finance is one of the very critical areas in the IUCN going forward, and we have also the area of ICT. And for both those two areas, I think I can make a small contribution to IUCN to forward the agenda and the objectives of IUCN. So if invited to join the Council for a second time based on your endorsement and the vote of it, I hope that I will do my best to ensure that I can continue to contribute, especially in the areas of finance and the areas of ICT. So thank you very much, and I anticipate your vote in the next session.
Thank you, Spencer. Again, for keeping to time. John?
So I'm John Robinson, and I'm a candidate for the Regional Councillor for North America and the Caribbean. I'm the Chief Conservation Officer with the Wildlife Conservation Society, and for the last 22 years I have run the Society's conservation programs, which now cover 64 countries with an annual budget of about $80 million. I'm running for IUCN Council because I believe strongly in the power of IUCN to convene governments and NGOs around a common conservation agenda, to act as a forum for a huge diversity of different perspectives, geographies, genders, and to translate scientific knowledge into effective policy. What do I have to offer? I understand the mission of IUCN. I've worked with IUCN. I joined the Species Survival Commission almost 25 years ago. I chaired a number of efforts to incorporate sustainable use into the core policy of IUCN. I served and represented IUCN on the traffic boards, and I have participated in innumerable congresses. I understand the complexity of this kind of organization. I understand its strengths and weaknesses. I understand the real challenge of financial sustainability here. And I have a lot of experience with boards of NGOs like the Tropical Forest Foundation and Foundations of Success, private foundations like the Christensen Fund, and professional societies like the Society for Conservation Biology. What do I stand for? I believe in the intrinsic rights of species to exist and in protecting wild places. I also recognize that conservation has to happen within a social and economic context, and that wild species are resources that people need to sustain, and that cultural and livelihood needs of people give them rights of access and use. I believe in the power of scientific knowledge and information to drive conservation action, and IUCN's commissions are things that we need to steward and support. And I recognize that there are conflicts in conservation among stakeholders, and I stand for pragmatic resolution of differences among different constituencies. Ideology is all very well, but if we're going to mainstream conservation into the lives of people, we must be pragmatic, we must solve problems, and we must be oriented to getting outcomes. As a counselor, I want to provide leadership that will draw different constituencies together. Throughout my career, I have sought to bridge differences and align conservation efforts. I want to contribute to strengthening the governance of the Union. I want to help develop IUCN's different funding models that will complement the efforts of its members and not compete with them. I also see that I would have a responsibility to promote IUCN within North America and the Caribbean. The participatory, diverse approach that epitomizes IUCN has much to teach us in our region, and there are many initiatives within our region that could usefully contribute to the deliberations of IUCN. I respectfully request your support. Thank you very much.
Thank you, John. Caroline Siegel. And after this presentation, we'll have any questions from the floor.
Thank you, everyone. My name is Caroline Siegel, and first I want to say it's an honor to be here and to meet all of you. I've never been to a Congress before, so I'm a little bit overwhelmed by the enormity of this event, and I'm really motivated by everything that I'm learning already. I am a first-year PhD candidate in anthropology. I'm based both in Amsterdam, at the Free University of Amsterdam, but also at McGill University in Montreal. Puis je parle français aussi. Voilà. I do research in Madagascar, actually, as some other people in this room do. And I think it was there that I first became passionate and so interested in the complexity and politics surrounding human-environment interactions. And this is really what guides my research, is a critical analysis of the way in which people interact with the environment and also the politics surrounding conservation. So if I'm elected to council, there are basically two things that I would really like to push forward. I should say that I'm a member of the youth leadership team in CISP and also the Intergenerational Partnership for Sustainability. And I've been working very closely with these groups over the past year during the campaign process. And it is my goal to push youth agendas forward within IUCN across commissions and focus on an interdisciplinary, collaborative means of really realizing some conservation goals we have within IUCN. So this would be a cross-commission collaboration, also across generations. So that's one goal I have, and I would do this by supporting youth motions that are on the table already, and more youth engagement within IUCN through the form of, for instance, internship programs, and so forth. You can find out more about this on my platform page, so I won't go into it too much. And the second thing that I'm really interested in within IUCN is equity, social and environmental justice and equity. I think that this could be further explored within IUCN, although there's already a lot of work happening already. So I hope to build upon the people that are working on the issue of equity within IUCN and work together to have a critical, to really have the hard conversations, you know, ask the hard questions. I am an anthropologist, so I'm especially interested in local communities and the impacts of you know, corporate sector engagement and conservation on a local level, but also conservation more generally. So the issue of equity is central to my goals within IUCN. And again, I would do this by supporting youth motions, not youth motions, pardon me, motions such as that really specifically address indigenous peoples and the impacts of conservation on these groups, and also initiatives such as the Wakatani mechanism, which I think is very innovative. So I will end now. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Carolyn. We'll have to talk about Madagascar at some point. Okay, I'd like to open the floor to questions for the four candidates from North America and the Caribbean. And if there are questions, then I'm going to ask you guys to come up here. And if not, we'll move on to the Caribbean intervention. Questions for our four candidates? Don't all raise your hands at once. Okay, yes. Nicholas.
I'm interested to know how, in this Great Recession of 2000, my question would be for it's not on either. There's no button.
Sir, right in the middle of the room.
Oh, in the middle of the room, we got one there.
Testing.
Thank you so much. Well, my question is, we've just entered the Great Recession of 2008, 4 years ago, and it's probably going to last another 10 years. So what do each of you think we can do in this economic climate to move the agenda of the Union forward?
Maybe you can answer from there instead of running up and down to the stage again. Who wants to answer that? We have a volunteer to move the mic around.
I think we need to look at the reform in the cost structure of the IUCN. I think we need to ensure that the cost structure reflects the emerging conditions in the financial sector. I think this will take a long way. We have to look at it, but I think that is the area we need to start. We need to ensure that there is flexibility in the structures so that it can reflect the dynamics taking place in the economy.
Next question, of course, is one of those imponderable questions, but I actually do think we need to really rethink the way we structure our financial relations between the Secretariat, the members, and the Commission. I actually think there are some real opportunities in bringing together members around certain issues and using the convening power of IUCN to develop programs and projects, which in many ways I believe are really fundable. I'm actually pretty sanguine about the opportunities to develop new funding streams for conservation and specifically for IUCN.
Thank you. Well, I'll start by saying ditto to what Spencer and John said, but I would add to that two things. The fund, we are very heavily dependent, as I said, on what we call the ODA, or development funding. And the nature of that funding, maybe not the flows, although that's also going down, but the nature of that funding is I think, moving in the wrong direction for IUCN. It's driving us down to project funding, where what IUCN needs to fund its science and its policy work, in fact, is what we tend to call core funding or unrestricted funding. That means we have to go to new sources. We need to talk to other parts of government. I personally believe we need to work more with the corporate sector. There are issues around how we do that and ensuring that we do it in a way that ensures due diligence, but we are going to have to find other ways to finance the work that we do. The last point is we're going to have to change what we do. Partly in the way that John said, because I actually believe there are many synergies and ways of developing and implementing the program more cheaply or more effectively by using the commissions and the members to deliver. But beyond that, developing new business lines, new forms of knowledge products that are saleable. Or even we are working at the whole idea of trying to have IUCN, who's a standard setter, turn that into actually selling, for example, verification of those standards and assuring those standards. So I think we have to develop new areas of business as well to fund us in the future.
Carol, do you also want to answer? And I would ask